Hi, it's Sam with Bayshore Plumbers again. Welcome to another video where we're going to cover garbage disposal replacement. More of an advanced skill, but still pretty easy. You can do it at home. If you take it step by step, you can be completely successful doing your own. Now, what I want to focus on first, we're going to be removing one. Right now it's quasi-removed here in my shop training setup. And we will then remove the flange completely. I'll show you some elements, pieces, and how to do it step by step to reinstall, which is the most difficult part. Then actually positioning the garbage disposal and connecting the plumbing to it. I'll be cutting that to size, and I'll show you exactly how to do it in a quick way. Some of the tools we're going to need are, basic. I like using these. These are cutters. Don't go out and buy a pair. I'm going to use them just because they. I do have them at my disposal here. A standard screwdriver, flathead would be fine. Some channel locks. You only need some plumber's putty. A drill makes it a little bit quicker, and this is the flange we're going to be replacing. I'm going to remove the other one and install this one just to show you guys how to do it. All right, so after showing you the tools here, this is the material that I'll be using, and we'll go step into that while we're actually putting it together. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the sink, and first, one of the first steps you want to do is get a pan, get everything collected, remove the existing P-trap. Depending on what material you have, you probably have to throw it away. Brass or plastic, none of it's very expensive, and it's better just to put in some new stuff if you do get around to changing out a garbage disposal. So let's take a leap of imagination there and focus. Let's just pretend you already took it apart. You got the garbage disposal to this point, and at this point, we're going to start removing it. Up here, we got a 7/8 hose. This hose here is what drains the actual dishwasher. It goes into the air gap, drains down this hose and into the garbage disposal for further grinding or just getting it out of there. So we'll go ahead and remove that first. This is already kind of loose here, so we'll be removing it. And it's sometimes a little hard. You got to kind of put a little bit of a muscle into it. Work it back and forth, and it will pop out. All right, once you're there, usually you can do this easier with a screwdriver. Inside, as you can see here, there's some loops that you can use to kind of grab onto. Once you kind of torque it a little bit, it'll come off. Once it is off, you can spin it off. You got to hold it down here so it doesn't just fall out. Pull that off. We can put that aside. Now, depending on what kind of screws we have here is what we can use. This is nice standard Phillips. I like using my screw gun on it, and we use it on some. Some of them are either hex or Allen or something like that. When that's the case, you can't do that. Now, once you loosen this bottom piece here, you kind of got to push it up, and there's a little ring that you got to pop out. You identify the mouth of the ring, and you use your screwdriver to kind of just pry it out, just like that. Hold on to it, and it snaps out. Pull everything else out, and at this point, you gotta watch your eyes. There'll be some plumber's putty, old plumber's putty kind of falling out. Work it loose, and pop that out. All right. As soon as you got that popped out, you want to clean out the top and the bottom to remove all of the excess and old plumber's putty. Using a rag, usually just kind of breaks free. It'll clean up nice. Put our old one aside. Now you've got the new one here. Same deal. Unscrew it. I always like to leave a few threads in there. Just like the way we removed it is the way it's going to come packaged. This goes on the top. What you end up doing, get some plumber's putty, and this never actually hardens completely. As you can see, it's pretty easy to remove it. And if you need to work it in colder climate, it does get pretty hard, so you just kind of have to work it a little bit. Maybe get it to about, I don't know, maybe about 10 inches, maybe a foot. And then wrap it around the base just like that. Kind of create a donut seal. Press it into it. You don't need an enormous amount, but a good 1/4 inch bead should do. All right. Now when you install it up top, I don't have a camera up there. I like to be able to read it when it's all done. So I would install it in a way that I can actually read it upright, and that's how I'm going to install it. If you gently push it, it'll more or less stay. Now comes the tricky part. First, you got to put in this cardboard kind of spacer gasket here. With the plumber's putty already in there, some of it coming down, it'll kind of stay. Then this top plate, notice it's in a triangle, so that you do want it to line up with the screws. Kind of like this. They kind of line up and lock in. It only goes in one way. All right, get that in there. Since you only left a few threads, 1 or 2 threads on these, it's gonna enable you to push it up pretty high, clearing this ring. The way this tightens down is this kind of a spring thing here. It actually, once it snaps into place, it snaps into a groove where it's going to, when it's covered, it's going to just kind of tighten on itself. So a good way of doing it, the way I was taught, just hold one side of it, then you can kind of just go around clockwise and kind of just push it on it. While you're holding one side, it doesn't really move, and you kind of just go all the way around until it slaps into place. Once it's into place, it falls into its groove, and we begin to turn these screws. Just really important, you got to make sure that it's in, the screws are inside of the top plate there, and the top plate is facing down. After that, you can hand tighten these a little bit. Use your screw gun. And I'll do one of them with my screw gun, 2 of them. All right, you want to tighten all the way around, just kind of like you would when you're replacing a tire on a car. And I just want to show you with a screwdriver. You can absolutely do it. It takes a little bit longer. All right. But if you get it snug all the way around, you can actually get it to where you can just nudge it a little bit with the screwdriver. You'll actually see the plumber's putty kind of push down as you tighten this, creating a nice tight seal. Nice and snug all the way around. And that does it. At that point, we're going to go ahead and get the disposal. Now, garbage disposals or homes don't always have dishwashers, so this is a knockout piece that is somewhat optional. This one here still has it in there. You'll reach with your pinky and there's a stop there. Easiest way to knock that out, just lie a screwdriver in there, lie it on its back. It doesn't take much to pop that out. Then reach inside of it, and that's the knockout piece. It kind of just breaks out of the way. If you don't have a dishwasher, just leave that alone. Now, you want to get these teeth lined up with these gears up in here. You're gonna push it up. This is pretty loose, so you just kind of put pressure at the bottom of it. Make sure all the way around, every single teeth, it's 3 of them, grabs on to the top gear, and as you turn clockwise, it tightens. Now, get it to a position, give it a little bit of a nudge, and it's good to go. It's nice and tight, creates a nice seal there. Your hose from the air gap, you kind of just have to reinstall it in there. Just be careful not to create too many kinks in that hose. And you can kind of straighten them out if they do occur. Kind of play with it a little bit. And then you're just going to tighten this hose clamp down and just get it as tight as you can without breaking the hose clamp. All right. All right. At this point here, I'm going to cover this really quick because this is already pre-installed on mine. This doesn't come installed from the factory. I want to show you something really important here because I've seen these installed wrong by a lot of maintenance guys. Now, that one in particular wasn't installed right either. So this gasket goes inside, and as this tightens on to the garbage disposal, this edge is going to create a seal with that. So you just position it and you tighten these screws down. All right, just like that. Make sure it's nice and straight. It'll tighten and stop. Just like that. All right, at that point, now we're going to install the piping and the P-trap for it. All right, and this might vary depending on what you have here. The way I like to do it is install the garbage disposal T first, and as you can see, there's kind of a one-way, not a valve, but just kind of like a cover there, and that is designed so that when water rushes down either out of the garbage disposal, it doesn't backsplash up towards the sink. It actually just kind of stops and flows downwards, and water coming out of here just kind of goes down. But there is a trap there because it's so small, especially during the holidays. Potato peels are notorious for getting stuck in this. And this tee will jam up. One of the easiest things you can ever do is, if you do have a kitchen sink backup that happens suddenly after sending down some garbage peels, is just take this thing off, clean it out. Usually it's just jammed up in this. All right, little tip there. So your nut, your washer, that tapered washer is going to create a seal. Little poly washers are great. Now we might have to cut this or whatever. We'll see right now. I usually hand tighten these, and maybe I go back with a plier, a piece of pliers, some channel locks, just to tighten it down just a little bit if needed. All right, I start with the garbage disposal first, and I actually go all the way and install the P-trap. Now, looks like I'm gonna have to cut this 90 there, because now that I'm getting the measurement, it doesn't line up. So I've got to take about 1.5 inches off of it. All right. You can use a hacksaw for this. These tend to work okay. So we said about 1.5 inches. Puts us about there, give or take. I'm just going to get it started just because it's not new and it's not all sharp. Comes off. Go ahead and reinstall this. And it's kind of trial and error. You might have to do it a couple of times. I don't typically use and it'll be fine here. I'll use a tape measure for it. Wait a minute. So I'm going to take 1 inch off of this. Pretty forgiving, so don't be too scared if you take too much off. It's okay. Notice I'm not using the tape measure, I'm just getting it done. On this side, you usually have like a poly washer and nut combination. They work awesome. Usually from male adapters. Push that into there. You gotta watch out not to. It's really easy to cross thread these. You just gotta be careful to get those threads right. If they start going in immediately and it's hard and difficult, then just do it again. Although cheap looking, these ABS tubular fittings are great. They don't leak very often. They're easy to take apart. And even though I don't use them that often, I do think they are a great product. So again, this trap adapter goes. Double check everything. Notice you can still kind of move things around. You've got that in place. You need to kind of do a rough measurement here. It doesn't have to be exact. You can play with it after. You just kind of light it up. You can use a tape measure for it if you need to. If not, this will work. It broke unevenly. Sometimes they're a little brittle, especially if they've been out in the sun. All right, and put that in there. Looks like we need an extension, so I'll go ahead and make that. Just by lining it up and comparing, you can kind of do most of this stuff. I don't want to make that jagged edge again, so I'll be a little bit more careful on this one. Swap polys here. Now, as you can see, it kind of all came together here. With the exception of our little jagged cut, everything seemed to go pretty smooth, fairly quickly. Now you want to hand tighten everything. Usually hand tight is more than enough. Now, just to be sure, I like to give it just a little bit of a nudge. Not much, not even an eighth turn. Yeah, as you can see, we got it all put together here. You got to make sure, you know, go ahead and test it out. The way I usually test it out is actually fill both sinks. You cap the garbage disposal, you cap the sink itself, raise it all the way up, and then just let it flush. That amount of pressure should leak if it's going to leak. It should kind of be, maybe it'll start dripping, maybe a little bead of water will kind of accumulate at the top or inside of these nuts here. Dry it out, take it apart. Maybe you got to change out a washer, something really simple like that. But that's pretty much it, guys. Really limited tools. It didn't take much. Screwdriver. I used a drill just because I had it. Some cutters. You could use a hacksaw. Really basic stuff, and you get it done. In my opinion, I would think that's a professional look. I really like the tubular stuff, especially for homeowners. It's easy to put apart. It's easy to fix. If it leaks, tighten it. Usually all hand tight. Very limited tools. All right. I hope you like the video.